Chapter 51 Crush. You are listening at MaleProtagonist.audio. Seeing Andrew's sudden attack, Magneto hurriedly raised his hands. The steel under Andrew's feet suddenly dented and deformed, tightly wrapping around his feet like boots. Immediately afterwards, a large amount of steel on the tower turned into spears, and was densely shot at Andrew from above and below. The density was so high that it was like thousands of troops throwing spears at the same time. Coulson and others couldn't help but exclaimed, "Magneto is truly Magneto, one person is as good as an army." "Boy, you're dead." Magneto looked proud. This move actually came with a follow-up move. If Andrew could block these steel spears, Magneto would fuse all the spears together and turn them into a giant iron ball. At that time, regardless of Andrew's kung fu skills, master, or Jedi, all die. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of Magneto out of thin air and said with a smile, "Surprise. This is impossible." Magneto looked shocked. At this moment, he thought of something and asked in shock, "Can you teleport?" "My speed is faster than teleportation." Andrew shrugged and said, "As soon as you started, I jumped into the sky." Because the speed was too fast, an afterimage was left at the original position. TSK. It took such a big battle to deal with an afterimage. I am worthy of Wan Tai. King. I'm Magneto. Magneto's face flushed with anger, and he shouted, "Do you think you won? This battle has just begun. I know you have prepared many means, but I'm sorry, you have lost since I stood in front of you." Andrew said, "One Iron King, look into my eyes." Magneto subconsciously looked into Andrew's eyes, and he saw two groups of flames, two groups of dark flames that could ignite his soul. Eye of Judgment, activate. Countless sinful images appeared in Magneto's mind. For example, he controlled the steel bars to leave the building, causing the building to collapse and countless civilians to die tragically. I'm not guilty. Humans have been persecuting us mutants. They deserve to die. I killed humans for mutants. I'm not wrong. Magneto shouted loudly, and the image of sin in his mind immediately disappeared. The Eye of Judgment is not invincible. If the person being judged thinks he is right, the trial will fail. For example, in the comics, Frank the Punisher once resisted the Eye of Judgment of the Ghost Rider. Extremists are trouble. Andrew shook his head and said, "It's okay to kill ordinary people, but what about killing mutants?" A large number of pictures popped up in Magneto's mind again, and in every picture, there were mutants. 30 years ago, in order to steal a piece of confidential information, Magneto ignored everyone's dissuasion and forcibly sent 2 mutants to sneak into the laboratory, causing them to become military experiments. 20 years ago, Magneto made a mistake and a branch of mutants was eliminated by the human army. 10 years ago, Magneto thought 2 mutants were traitors and killed them by mistake. Now, Magneto is ready to sacrifice the little naughty boy for his own plan. Magneto could not deny these sins, and his soul was ignited. Then, more sins emerged, including betraying Charles, abandoning his children, etc. Magneto is not emotionless, but his emotions belong entirely to mutants. In his eyes, humans are another kind of creature. This is why in the movie, after Mystique transforms back into an ordinary person, Magneto directly abandons her. Magneto is too extreme. No. Magneto roared unwillingly, but could not stop his soul from burning. In fact, he was not afraid of death, but he could not die before the mutants' great cause was accomplished. At this moment, Magneto's eyes flashed, and he appeared out of thin air on a floating platform. A ball of golden human-shaped flame said coldly to him, "Sign a contract and give me your soul, and I will save your life." It's the soul, not the soul after death. In addition, this does not violate the agreement between Andrew and the Ancient One, because Magneto is the enemy. Magneto was stunned for a moment, then asked, "If I give you my soul, wouldn't you be able to kill me at any time? Do you think you have a choice? Sign it or not sign it? Decide quickly." Andrew sneered. If Magneto didn't sign, he would kill him and force his soul into hell. Of course, this is a bit wasteful. It is better for Magneto to be alive. You must know that this crisis will bring tens of thousands of souls to Andrew. Magneto's face turned black with anger, but he did not get angry because Andrew was right. He had no choice. Give me the power to kill that kid, and I will sell my soul to you. Sorry, even if I lend you my power, you still can't kill him. Andrew said, how to kill yourself? Is that boy so strong? Magneto was shocked. He gritted his teeth and said, I can sign the contract, but within 5 years, you cannot take away my soul. Agree. Andrew smiled and signed a contract with Magneto. Then, with a wave of his hand, he drove Magneto's consciousness out of the illusion. After Magneto's consciousness returned to his body, the fire in his soul quickly extinguished. However, due to the burning just now, he became very weak and even a little unsteady. Magneto gritted his teeth and prepared to fight, but at this moment, a fist hit his head, his vision went black, and he fainted to the ground. Done. Andrew clapped his hands. This time the harvest was really good. As soon as Magneto fainted, the instrument immediately stopped and the radiation wave quickly dissipated. At the same time, the steel spear and the broken tower quickly fell down. Everyone below was stunned. Although they knew that Magneto was not Andrew King's opponent, no one thought that Magneto would be defeated so quickly. Sure enough, Ghost Rider is the strongest. Andrew bent down and grabbed Magneto. Professor Charles thought he was going to kill Magneto and hurriedly shouted, Mr. Wong, please show mercy. Andrew did not respond to Professor Charles. He grabbed Magneto and jumped to a nearby building. The next moment, the tower crashed down, and countless steel fragments shot out in the dust. Both the enemy and ourselves avoided at the same time, and the scene was a mess. When the steel fragments and dust subsided, Andrew jumped onto the street with Magneto. Then, he threw Magneto to Coulson and said, the reward for helping me clean up last time. Coulson hurriedly caught Magneto, his face full of surprise. He really didn't expect that he could get such a big reward for doing something small for Andrew Wong, who was Magneto, the most wanted criminal in the United States. Ghost Rider is so particular. Coulson said with a flattering look on his face, Mr. Wong, if you have anything to ask, S.H.I.E.L.D. will do its best to serve you. Barton on the side couldn't help but turn his face sideways. Coulson is so embarrassing. Seeing Andrew hand over Magneto to S.H.I.E.L.D., Professor Charles frowned slightly. It seemed that Eric was going to suffer a little, but this was what he asked for. Andrew waved his hand, turned around and left, and Psylocke hurriedly chased after him. Chapter 52 Harvest and Arrangement. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. After the battle, Frank stopped attacking Mystique and turned around to fly towards the spaceship in the sky. Then, the spaceship took off and disappeared from everyone's sight. Eric. Mystique immediately flew towards Coulson, trying to rescue Magneto. At this moment, her steel suit suddenly malfunctioned and fell straight down. However, it was Tony Stark who broke through the suit through his mobile phone. Programmed to regain control of the suit, Mystique cursed and controlled the suit to disintegrate. Then, she fell from the air and rolled into a nearby alley. Withdraw. Seeing that the situation was over, Toad and others retreated one after another. The X-Men never killed them all and did not stop them. Coulson hesitated and asked Barton to lead people to hunt down Mystique. As for the others, we will talk about it later. Amid the chaos, the disaster came to an end for the time being. Nick Fury breathed a long sigh of relief when he received the news. Hill, notify the World Security Council of a meeting. Nick Fury said, there are more and more disasters. We can no longer stand still. We must speed up research, increase weapon development, and absorb more useful talents. Maria Hill nodded. Director Fury had only one core meaning, want money, want money, want money. The big move is indeed different. There are more than 60,000 souls. In addition, after the incident, a new world merged into this world. Andrew was very satisfied. Sure enough, if you want to collect souls, you still have to rely on big moves. He is now very much looking forward to New York being invaded by aliens. The one who signed the most contracts this time is Yelena. As a reward, I will help her heal her body in advance and turn her back into a normal woman. Andrew used his consciousness to announce to the Black Widows. The Black Widows congratulated Yelena one after another. Their hearts were filled with envy. Fortunately, as long as they continued to work for Boss, they would be able to return to normal sooner or later. Thank you, Boss. Yelena was so excited that her efforts were not in vain, and Natasha would definitely envy her. At this time, Psylocke caught up from behind. She stopped in front of Andrew and asked expectantly, Master, what do you mean when you say I don't know how to develop my talents? Literal meaning. Andrew glanced at Psylocke and said indifferently, I don't like people blocking my way, get out of the way. Ling Dai said, Master, please guide me to develop my talent. I can help you with 3 things for free. If you are not willing, I can also pay the tuition. After hesitating for a moment, Ling Dai gritted his teeth and said, the tuition is very high. Andrew smiled, and Psylocke thought she had succeeded in impressing the other person, so she also laughed. The next second, she felt the surrounding scenery fly forward quickly, and then hit the wall with a bang, but was kicked into the wall by Andrew. Andrew took out the checkbook from his pocket and wrote a number. Then, he walked up to Psylocke, put the check on her chest, and said, I don't like people blocking my way. After saying that, Andrew walked away straight away. Psylocke broke free from the wall and cursed unhappily, the master is the master, he has such a bad temper. Ling Dai took the check out of his chest and glanced at it. He was shocked to see that it was actually $100,000. Not only is he a master, but he is also a rich man. This kick is worth it. Ling Dai immediately put the check into her pocket. She looked at Andrew's back and felt a little headache. The master was not short of money and did not need her help. How should she impress him? Hell, Andrew said to the Red Devil kneeling in front of him, you can speak. The Red Devil said with great respect, Lord Demon King, I am willing to dedicate my soul to you in exchange for the opportunity to serve under your command. The attitude is pretty good. Andrew snorted, raised his hand and sent a ray of light into the Red Devil's body to form a phoenix brand, which meant that the Red Devil's soul officially belonged to the rebirth hell. The Red Devil said excitedly, thank you, Lord Demon King. Andrew said, tell me about the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club is led by the Black King and the White Queen, and only accepts elite mutants. They hold huge power and wealth. For example, they basically have the final say in the casino. The Red Devil did not dare to neglect and told everything he knew, I am also a member of the Hellfire Club. I came to help Magneto this time because of the request of Mystique Raven. The Black King is indeed not dead, is it the Hellfire Club? Andrew thought for a moment and said, go help Fong Mo and the others collect souls. I will call you if you need them. Yes, Lord Demon King. The Red Devil nodded respectfully, and Andrew waved his hand, sending the Red Devil out of rebirth hell. Seeing the familiar modern buildings around him, the Red Devil couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and his back was covered in cold sweat. That was the devil in front of him, and he would be in catastrophe if he was not careful. I should have known better not to help that bastard Magneto, but then again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The Red Devil's eyes flashed and he thought to himself, with the power of the Demon King, he will definitely be able to help me save my people. Before that, I have to perform well and make contributions. After the Red Devil left rebirth hell, Andrew thought for a while and called Ethan over. He asked, how are you doing with your research on the mechanical part of Taskmaster? Can you copy it? Ethan was the one who saved Tony in the Middle East. After his death, his soul was taken to rebirth hell by Andrew and served as an assistant to Howard and Teslak. Ethan, who existed in the form of a robot, replied, Boss, I can copy Antonia's mechanical prosthetic limbs. However, we are all robots in hell, so mechanical prosthetic limbs have no meaning to us, right? It really means nothing to you, but it means a lot to the disabled people on Earth. Andrew smiled and said, do you think they would be willing to exchange the soul after death for a mechanical leg, a mechanical hand, a mechanical spine, and a mechanical eye? Ethan was dumbfounded, could this be possible? He is truly worthy of being a demon king. Don't look like that. Our hell is not bad. They are lucky to be here. Andrew said, I will open a laboratory for you, and you will specialize in human machinery. Whether it is mechanical prostheses, mechanical internal organs, or mechanical skeletons, I want them all. Our hell is indeed not bad. Ethan nodded and said, Boss, I will do my best to research, but what about after-sales service? Human machinery must be repaired and maintained frequently. After sales, Andrew has a toothache. Why is the style of rebirth in hell becoming more and more weird? Do you want to return it within 7 days without any reason? Andrew said, You first research the human body machinery, and we will do the rest slowly. Just tell us what resources we need. Ethan said, Other resources are easy to find, but I need some animals for experiments. It's a small matter, I will use magic to make some unconscious bodies for you. Andrew said that this is just the beginning. Next, he will recruit more scientists. As the saying goes, technology changes lives. Damn, this style of painting is completely hopeless. Chapter 53 Follow-up. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Commentage. The eldest disciple Cassius sat in front of Ancient One and said respectfully, Teacher, you are back. Gu nodded and put the tea leaves into the teacup to make tea. Although she had just come back from outside, there was no dust on her body and she was as elegant as before. The fact that Ancient One allowed Andrew to enter the earth was publicized by a certain demon king. Under the guidance of that demon king, the demon kings and extraterrestrial evil gods thought that there was something wrong with Ancient One. So, they were ready to do something and kept making small moves, such as letting believers summon their projections and the like. Naturally, Ancient One would not indulge those demon kings and cut off all their tentacles. When the demon kings saw that Ancient One was still the same Ancient One without any change, they immediately chose to retreat and beat up the projection of a certain demon king. Teacher. Cassius said straight to the point, I have been observing the Devil King during this period. He really has a bottom line. In order to protect the contractor, he is even willing to give up the opportunity to obtain more souls. The problem is, I don't know if he is acting. If he is, when he becomes stronger, he will definitely come back to bite us and the earth. Even if not, people will change. Teacher, I think it is too dangerous to put that devil into the earth. The devil from hell is not worthy of trust. He's not acting, but people do change. Ancient One looked at Cassius deeply and said, The problem is, we have to do this. Cassius was surprised, this must be done. Teacher, is there something wrong with the earth? Gui did not answer. She said, Cassius, it is right to stick to principles, but sometimes, for the sake of the overall situation, we must know how to be flexible. Adaptation. Teacher, I understand. Cassius' eyes flashed, and he stood up to leave. Gui looked at his back and gently put down the teacup in his hand. The future was changing. In the room, Cassius carefully pondered what Gui said, Is there any flexibility? If I make a deal with that demon king and gain eternal life, will the teacher blame me? Immortality is what Cassius has always pursued. In addition, he also wants to resurrect his wife and children and be with them forever. At this moment, a voice sounded in Cassius' mind, Cassius, do you want to know the secret of the Ancient One's eternal life? Cassius turned his head sharply and found that an ancient book collected some time ago was emitting a dark aura. If he sensed it correctly, it should be the aura of Dormammu, the Lord of Darkness. Cassius didn't waste any time and immediately built a golden magic circle to completely seal the ancient book. Dormammu's consciousness in the ancient book was confused. How could this happen? According to my own observation of Cassius, he should be very concerned about this matter. In order to deliver this ancient book to Cassius, Dormammu put a lot of effort into it, even sacrificing a projection to be blown up by Ancient One, but the result is this. Dormammu's consciousness is a little crazy. Cassius naturally doesn't know that much. His mind is now filled with eternal life. Cassius took a breath and made a decision, observe for a while. If the devil really keeps his word, why not trade with him? The next day, TV stations, newspapers, and the internet were all talking about Magneto's riot in Manhattan last night. People became more and more repulsive towards mutants, and some even called on the president to lock up all mutants. Senator Kelly took the opportunity to propose a mutant registration bill, which received a lot of public support. The living environment of mutants became increasingly worse. Speaking of which, this is a good thing for Andrew, because it will allow more mutants to choose to become ordinary people. Business in Times Square will last for a long time. Unlike other newspapers, the Daily Bugle did not accuse mutants. Its content was mainly divided into 3 parts: Black Spider-Man, mocking Iron Man, and praising the great Ghost Rider. The damn Daily Bugle not only chose the most embarrassing photo of me, but also used me as a stepping stone to support Ghost Rider. Is Ghost Rider your biological father? Also, he didn't appear at all this time, okay? The person who solved Magneto was a kung fu kid who was not scientific at all. Tony was so angry that he wanted to buy the Daily Bugle, but Andrew refused directly. He had spent so much effort to promote the Daily Bugle as the conscience of Manhattan, how could he sell it? In addition, Peter was almost fired for abandoning Roxanne. In the end, Jameson looked at the exclusive photos of Spider-Man and reluctantly kept Peter as a temporary worker, putting aside the angry Tony and poor Peter. Professor Charles looked at the newspaper in his hand and couldn't help but sigh. Last night, he guessed that many people would attack mutants today, but he didn't expect that it would be like this. Oops. After hesitating for a moment, Professor Charles called Nick Fury and said, "I agree to initially cooperate with S.H.I.E.L.D. However, you can talk to him about Logan's matter yourself. I will not interfere." "Okay, don't worry, I will prevent the mutant registration bill from passing," Nick Fury said with a smile on his face. In fact, the reason why many newspapers accused mutants was that S.H.I.E.L.D. was secretly controlling it. Nick Fury doesn't want to exterminate mutants, he just wants to control them so the world will be a safer place. It shouldn't be difficult to convince Logan. With Tony, Barton, and Natasha, there are 4 Avengers team. Nick Fury was a little excited. With the Avengers team here, S.H.I.E.L.D. would be able to deal with those disasters by himself in the future, without having to ask the Ghost Rider. Nick Fury became more and more afraid of the Ghost Rider. The reason was simple. The opponent was really too strong. Nick Fury had trouble sleeping and eating at the thought of being unable to deal with him. At a training ground in New York, Andrew swung a wooden stick and hit Gwen quickly. Gwen kept retreating and dodging, looking a little panicked. However, at critical moments, she could always dodge the wooden stick narrowly and narrowly, which was amazing. Calm down. The most important thing in fighting is to be calm. Also, trust your own feelings. Your talent is very good. Andrew shouted. Gwen tried to calm down, but her rhythm was disrupted, and she was hit on the shoulder by Andrew with a stick. Gwen groaned in pain. Andrew did not step forward to comfort him, but asked coldly, "Do you want to continue?" "Continue." Gwen gritted her teeth and said stubbornly that last night, she was rescuing people in Manhattan and felt deeply inadequate, so she asked Andrew to teach her how to fight. Gwen doesn't want to be a superhero, she just wants to save more people. Then continue. Andrew did not expose Gwen's identity and taught Gwen to fight in a practical way. Only by persevering can she be qualified to be a superhero. Gwen is soft on the outside and strong on the inside. Not only did she persevere, but she also gradually learned to stay calm during the battle. Spider-Man has a magical spider sense. Once Gwen calmed down, Andrew's stick could no longer hit her, a mortal-level power. He nodded and stopped attacking. Take a rest and start the next phase of training later. Andrew said. Gwen took out a breath and said very seriously, "Andrew, thank you." Andrew smiled and said, "I beat you and you thank me." My Miss Gwen, do you have any special hobbies? If so, I can reluctantly try it with you. Chapter 54 Purple Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What nonsense! Gwen hammered Andrew in shame and anger. Andrew handed her a bottle of water and said, "Gwen, the biggest difference between humans and animals is that humans use tools. If you want to protect yourself, in addition to training, you must also learn how to use tools. Use tools. Gwen took the water, took a sip, and asked, use tools. Let's take Spider-Man as an example. His spider silk is a tool. Without spider silk, his combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. Andrew said, however, Spider-Man does not use spider silk enough. He should modify the launcher to have multiple launch modes, such as current mode, spider silk ball mode, spider silk web mode, etc. Gwen thought thoughtfully, modify the transmitter. Yes, in addition to launchers, Spider-Man can actually get some special weapons, such as police electric batons. Andrew nodded and said, Spider-Man has to fight criminals for a long time with his bare hands. This is not only dangerous, but also easy to damage public property. Director George has always wanted to catch him and make him pay. My dad hates Spider-Man and often scolds him at home. Gwen smiled, and then she thought of something and her smile froze. She was about to become the second Spider-Man. You are a quasi-scientist. I believe you understand the importance of tools. The brain is our most precious asset as humans. Andrew said, okay, let's continue training. Next, we will train long-range weapons. We will practice darts first. In a few days, I will take you to the shooting range to shoot. Gwen was stunned. You don't need to shoot, right? Andrew nodded with certainty, of course. If you don't know the performance of firearms and the actual lethality of firearms, how can you defend yourself? I will familiarize you with various firearms. If you are interested, I will get you a rocket launcher to play with. Are you sure you are a reporter and not an arms dealer? Gwen complained, I just wanted to save more people. Why did the rocket launcher come out? Thinking of something, Andrew said, by the way, let me teach you a secret first. This secret can ensure that you will be safe and sound under any circumstances. Gwen's eyes lit up. What secret is so powerful? Andrew said seriously, when you are in danger, call my name in your heart. That's not scientific. Gwen rolled her eyes at Andrew. She didn't believe it at all, and Andrew didn't care. Gwen had his power in her body, and he could project it to help her at any time. Under Andrew's strict training, Gwen grew rapidly. In fact, with the power of a spider, she was a gem that could shine with just a little polish. Gwen not only grew in fighting skills, but also in self-confidence. She put on the black and white cloaked spider suit she made herself and went to Hell's Kitchen to help people. Zitsy. Gwen pointed the stick at a gun-wielding gangster. The gangster was electrocuted and fell to the ground unable to move. Gwen blinked and felt that Andrew was right. It was much simpler this way. Leave, and remember not to come to Hell's Kitchen at night. Gwen lowered her voice and said to the woman who was robbed. The woman nodded gratefully to her and ran out of the alley. Gwen was very happy after successfully rescuing people. She was about to leave when an excited voice came from the alley. Today is really my lucky day. I met 2 women with superpowers in a row. Gwen turned around and saw a man in a purple suit, who could tell at first glance was not a good guy, standing excitedly at the entrance of the alley. Next to him was a beautiful woman in a leather jacket who looked very sad. The face of the beauty in leather clothes was full of fear and despair, and she seemed to be very afraid of the man in purple clothes, but for some reason, she did not run away and kept standing there. Gwen sensed danger. She held a short stick and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? Miss, are you threatened? You can call me Killgrave. Now, throw away your weapons and come over here." Killgrave, or Purple Man, said excitedly. Gwen didn't want to do it, but for some reason, she threw down her weapon obediently and walked towards Purple Man. Purple Man, a big villain, has the ability to control others through viral infection. The TV series version is different from the pheromones in the comics. As for the beauty next to Purple Man, her name is Jessica Jones, a future street hero with super strength and super jump. How so? Gwen wanted to resist, but she couldn't control her body at all. She finally understood why the beautiful woman was so scared. The man in purple was really scary. Jessica Jones looked at Gwen walking over, feeling more and more desperate. This time, it was completely over. No, I don't want to be controlled. Gwen was frightened in her heart. At this moment, she remembered the secret that Andrew once said, and couldn't help shouting in her heart, Andrew. Ziren's eyes flashed, and he suddenly appeared in a place full of magma and black smoke. In front of him, stood a stalwart figure that made everyone tremble. As soon as Ziren saw him, he couldn't help but knelt down. The ground is trembling. Die. Andrew didn't talk nonsense, he slapped the palm like the sky, and the purple man's soul was blown away on the spot. In the real world, Ziren suddenly opened his eyes and fell down. Gwen and Jessica returned to normal at the same time. They looked at each other and felt confused. What is going on? Jessica thought for a moment, then cautiously stepped forward to check on Ziren, and found that he was already dead. Why did he die suddenly? Gwen looked confused. Even the movie doesn't have such an outrageous plot, right? The villain is about to succeed and dies of a sudden illness. If you perform this, you will be scolded to death. Best dead. Jessica exhaled, kicked Ziren's body away and hit it hard against the wall, almost scaring her to death before. At this time, Jessica's cell phone suddenly rang. After she answered the call, a female voice said hurriedly, "The police are coming. You run away quickly. I will pick you up at the intersection." Jessica was startled and hurriedly took Gwen to escape in the direction of the prompt. She had just kicked Ziren and was about to be caught. She couldn't even wash it off after jumping into the sea. Gwen encountered this kind of thing for the first time and had no experience at all. She ran with Jessica. Soon, the two women came to the intersection and an American Ford van was waiting for them. "Come in quickly." An outstanding-looking mixed-race female driver opened the door and shouted. The two women immediately got into the car. The female driver stepped on the accelerator and left quickly. After escaping Hell's Kitchen, Jessica asked the female driver, "Who are you? Why are you helping us? And why do you know my mobile phone number?" Sky smiled and said, "My name is Sky. I am a hacker. I happen to see you on the camera. Don't worry, I have deleted all the contents of the camera." Hacker. Gwen and Jessica were both shocked, and Andrew was also shocked. Spider-Gwen, Sky the evil Lone Star, and alcoholic Jessica, what kind of combination is this? Immediately, Andrew shook his head and didn't do anything more. Anyway, he could bear it. Chapter 55 New Year's Eve. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Every year, Times Square holds a grand New Year's Eve carnival, and this year is no exception. Even though many buildings next to the square are still under repair, in fact, this year's scale is larger than in previous years. Everyone wants to say goodbye to the old and welcome the new. Gwen hugged Andrew's arm and sighed, "There have been too many disasters this year. Everyone hopes that next year will be calm and live in peace and contentment." Andrew shook his head, "The idea is good, but when you look back in the future, you will find that this year is the best year in the next 10 years. Gwen was dissatisfied. "Are you so pessimistic? The wheel of history cannot be stopped." Andrew said, "Don't talk about this, you have been very busy recently, go shopping with me tonight. This is my first time to attend the New Year's Eve carnival." Gwen felt a little guilty and a little guilty. During this time, she, Jessica, and Sky formed a team to work as superheroes in Hell's Kitchen. They were so busy that they didn't even have time to do their homework, let alone accompany Andrew. Gwen promised, "I will definitely accompany you tonight." Soon, the time came to the last few seconds of 2008. In Times Square, everyone counted down in unison, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. 2009 has officially arrived, but it is different from what the people expected. This year is destined to not be peaceful. Everyone is hoping that the disaster will be over, but according to my guess, the disaster will only become more and more severe. In the Osborne group, Norman Osborn, who was much older than before, handed the wine glass to General Ross of the American Army Department and said, General Ross, nicknamed General Thunderbolt, took the glass and said, "Our army will protect the United States." In fact, the previous disasters were not solved by the military. Norman smiled and said, "General Ross, don't be angry. I'm not saying that your military doesn't do its best, but the military's power is too weak and cannot compare to those so-called superheroes. The military's strength is not weak, but it is too late to mobilize. General Ross snorted and said impatiently, Norman, what exactly do you want to say? I would say we should collaborate on developing human enhancement agents. Norman said, once the human enhancement agent is successfully researched, the Army will definitely restore its glory during World War II. General Ross asked, how did I hear that your Osborne Group's human enhancement potion failed? There was no failure, just a slight flaw, and some of the mice went completely crazy. Norman corrected, as long as General Ross is willing to share the formula and data of the military's human enhancement experiments, I am confident that this flaw will be completely solved. Whether it is the Osborne Group's human enhancement potion or the military's human enhancement experiment, they are actually restoring Dr. Erskine's super soldier serum, the serum that made Captain America's chest muscles larger than those of women. There are many similar projects in the United States, and the Osborne Group's human enhancement potion is the closest product to the super soldier serum. The same level as the soldier serum restored by Howard. General Ross hesitated, and after a moment, he said, I can cooperate with the Osborne Group, but in addition to the formula of the human enhancement potion, I also need the formula of the lizard potion. Norman was stunned and then said, the formula of the lizard potion? General Ross, the lizard man will produce another personality that is uncontrollable. It's okay, just treat them as animals. General Ross said, I am going to use the death row prisoners to get a few lizard men. Their combat effectiveness is very good. Is that so? Norman hesitated and nodded, yes, but the Osborne Group will not admit it. They will only say that the formula is lost. General Ross said, no problem, Norman, I hope you won't disappoint me. Don't worry, I will never fail this time. Norman said very firmly that he had no time and must inject the human enhancement agent as soon as possible, otherwise, he would die. In addition, the Osborne Group's recent performance has been too poor. Norman needs orders from the military to keep his position as chairman. Otherwise, shareholders who are like vampires will abandon him without hesitation. It's a pity that Banner can't be found. Otherwise, why would I need to cooperate with the Osborne Group? General Ross thought of something and secretly sighed, Iron Man and Spider-Man are nothing compared to the Hulk. Only Ghost Rider can fight. In a simple hut in Siberia, a long-haired man with scars on his face who looked very tough and wild held up the arc reactor he had just built and said proudly, Tony Stark can do it. I can do the same thing. Ivan, you are more genius than Tony. Obadiah, a bald man with a big beard, clapped his hands excitedly. You only used one original drawing to complete the miniaturization of the arc reactor. The Starks are a group of thieves who stole everything from the Vank family. Ivan Vank threw the arc reactor aside and said angrily, the Stark family is living and drinking in America every day, while our Vank family is trapped in Siberia and suffering. I must settle this account with Tony. Stark, do the math. Be careful. Seeing Ivan randomly throwing the arc reactor around, Obadiah almost died of fright. Come on, that was a nuclear reactor. If it exploded, he would become the worst villain to die. Obadiah cursed secretly, these idiots are so rough and crazy in their actions. Chapter 56 Dr. Banner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Weak chicken. Ivan looked disdainful. I used to drink vodka while making nuclear materials, but nothing happened. Why are these geniuses so unruly? Obadiah secretly gritted his teeth. On the surface, he said sincerely, Ivan, you and I both want to kill Tony Stark. We are the best allies. Ivan glanced at Obadiah and said, Obadiah, allies need to pay for each other. I have the arc reactor and a brain more powerful than Tony Stark. What do you have? Obadiah became more and more annoyed. He said, I have funds and military connections. Ivan, without me, you will never be able to kill Tony Stark. Apart from other things, if you want to build a steel suit, you must at least go to $1 billion, you can't just go fight Tony with 2 electric whips strapped to you, right? Ivan held a toothpick in his mouth and asked, relationships with the military? Aren't you a wanted criminal? Without the help of the military, how could I have been able to survive until now? Obadiah said, the military wanted the steel suit, but Tony refused to give it, so the military secretly helped me. Ivan, as long as we kill Tony Stark, the military will be completely on our side, and by then, you will become the next Tony Stark. I'm better than Tony Stark. Ivan snorted coldly, Obadiah, I know you have many calculations, but I don't care. I only have one purpose, to kill Tony Stark and make that thief family pay the price. Of course, Tony Stark must die. Obadiah said, pack up, I will take you to Justin Hammer of Hammer Industries. Justin Hammer, Ivan said, this name sounds like someone who was taken advantage of, the kind who gave money and effort, but was tricked and got nothing. He is the one who has been taken advantage of. I know him very well and it is not difficult at all to convince him to support us financially. Obadiah laughed loudly, don't tell him our purpose. Stark Group is preparing to hold the Stark Industry Expo in Flushing. When the time comes, we will give him a big surprise. Ivan spit out the toothpick and said viciously, Stark Industry Expo. Humph, I want to send Tony Stark to hell when he is at his most glorious. Time came to February 2009. In the apartment, the Black Widow Natasha looked at her sister Yelena's physical examination report and asked in shock, Yelena, did you get the wrong physical examination form? Yes, it's mine. Everything is normal. Yelena took a look at the report and said, that physical examination form is for applying to join the university. She plans to go to university to improve herself and major in sales and psychology. As for their adoptive parents, they are currently living in seclusion in Russia. The Red Guard has mental problems, and Melina plans to treat him, Natasha said unhappily, what's normal? This is a physical examination form for a complete woman. Neither you nor I are complete. After hearing this, Yelena checked the surroundings with instruments to make sure there were no bugs, and then said, you are incomplete, but I am complete. Last year, my performance ranked first among all Black Widows. Boss helped me restore my body, as a normal woman should. I have them all. Natasha's eyes lit up and she asked hurriedly, Boss, you mean the Demon King? Can the Demon King help us restore our integrity? Of course, that's the Demon King. Yelena said, but don't count on it, the boss doesn't like you, otherwise he would have recruited you a long time ago. The bodyguard group has always been short of manpower, of course, this is normal, you are too unruly. Do you think I hope to be seen in the same light by him? Also, how am I not being serious? Natasha snorted, Natasha, will never give in to the devil. You are not serious in any way. How can someone fight, flip their hair, and keep posing to look cool? Yelena complained, I won't tell you anymore, I'm going to school. I will win the championship again this year. Then, boss may reward me with eternal youth, or give me superpowers. Eternal youth, superpower, the more Natasha listened, the brighter her eyes became. She complained, are you messengers from hell or office workers? All you talk about is performance. Our hell is different from other hells. Our boss is the most powerful Demon King. Yelena said with admiration, don't worry, when you go to hell, I will protect you. After all, I am also the boss's bodyguard. Natasha sneered and said, wow, you look so awesome. Why don't you become the devil's woman so that I can walk around in hell after my death? Yelena said, we at Black Widow have an internal bet on who will be the first to climb into the devil's bed. The stakes are hundreds of millions and are still increasing. I think I have a good chance and the boss appreciates me. How boring are you guys? Natasha complained, waiting for Yelena to go to school. She murmured to herself, restore wholeness, eternal youth, superpowers. I really want them all, why not just join the Demon King's team? What is the Demon King's phone number? Coming? She said this, but Natasha hadn't really made up her mind, she was just a little wavering and incomplete, which had always been her heartache. At this time, the phone rang, but it was Coulson calling, Natasha, come here quickly, I have an important task for you. The New York branch of S.H.I.E.L.D. A few years ago, the military secretly conducted human enhancement experiments. A scientist named Bruce Banner was exposed to a large amount of gamma rays due to an experimental accident. However, he did not die. He became a man over 2 meters tall and powerful. Infinite, invulnerable, and full of rage, the Hulk. Coulson said while playing the video, "This Hulk is very powerful." An entire military base was no match for him and was violently destroyed by him. Fortunately, he turned back into a rational Bruce Banner afterwards. According to our investigation, Dr. Banner will turn into the Hulk when he is angry. He has been hiding in Porto Verde for all these years. Just last month, the military found him. Coulson clicked on a picture, pointed to the ruins in the picture and said, "This turned out to be a beverage factory." The Hulk was fighting the army inside. As you can see, the military suffered heavy losses and the factory became ruins. This monster is really scary. I hope he doesn't come to New York. Natasha's face looked a little solemn. She thought of something and asked in shock, "Wait, Coulson, could it be?" "Yes, Dr. Banner is in New York. The exact location is unclear, but we have seen him coming into the city." Coulson smiled bitterly and said, "Natasha, I have other things to do. I leave the search for Dr. Banner to you. You must find him as quickly as possible. If he goes crazy in the city, the damage caused will never be lower than Magneto. The branch will fully cooperate with you." Natasha asked, "Other things? What else is more important than this big man? He can go crazy and destroy a district." Chapter 57 University of Calvo. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. Coulson did not answer Natasha's question, but looked a little excited. They found the man in the North Pole, and more importantly, he still had life characteristics. Finding someone is not a problem, the question is, what to do after you find someone, Natasha asked. "Look at his big fist. One punch can beat me to a pulp, break all the bones, and burst my brain. You don't need to go into details. Once found, Professor Charles will take action. He should be able to make Dr. Banner not angry." Coulson said, "Dr. Banner is easy to get along with when he is not angry. He has not changed during the years in Porto Wade." "That's good." Natasha sighed and said, "I hope there won't be any big trouble this time. New Yorkers have just relaxed for a few months." In a hospital in New York, General Ross looked at the ward full of wounded people, his expression extremely ugly. These wounded soldiers are all elites of the army, and Emil Blonsky among them is the super soldier king. Unfortunately, they are vulnerable to the Hulk. "General Ross, I have a proposition." Norman sat in a wheelchair and said to General Ross, "These soldiers are just right to participate in the human enhancement drug experiment." General Ross frowned. "Your potion has not been successful yet." "It has been successful, General. I will inject the medicine with these soldiers." Norman said slightly crazily, and General Ross was stunned. "You, a billionaire, are being used as a guinea pig? Are you sick or just tired of living?" At this time, General Ross noticed Norman's wheelchair and asked, "Norman, is there something wrong with you?" Norman said, "That's not important. What's important is that you and I both need human enhancement potions." General Ross hesitated a little. At this time, Emil Blonsky, who had a broken leg next to him, shouted, "I am willing to participate in the experiment. I want to defeat that big guy. I will never allow myself to fail." Emil Blonsky, a warrior who never admits defeat, other soldiers also shouted, "We are willing too." General Ross made up his mind after hearing this. He nodded and said, "Then we will do the experiment, but we can only choose 6 people. Norman, I hope your potion is really successful, otherwise, I will never let you go." Norman said confidently, "Don't worry, my potion is absolutely fine. Osborne Group, you are trustworthy." A few days later, at Calvo University, Andrew sat on a chair, admiring the beauties in the university and drinking ice Coke. "Hey, are you here to accompany me, or are you here to see the beauty? Gwen pouted and asked very dissatisfiedly. This time, as her assistant, she accompanied Dr. Otto to give a lecture at Calvo University. Andrew happened to have nothing to do and came with her. Andrew pretended to ask, "Besides you, are there any other beauties here? Don't try to make me happy, I'm not that easy to fool." She said this, but the smile on Gwen's face betrayed her deeply. Andrew grabbed her hand and said, "Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking at the beauty, I'm looking at the poor man over there." Gwen looked along Andrew's finger and saw a man standing next to the big tree with a sad face. She blinked and said, "He seems to be a professor at Calvo University." "What happened?" "Look over there." Andrew changed his finger in another direction. There was a man and woman walking towards the library. From their intimate movements, it was not difficult to see their relationship. Andrew pointed at the fragile beauty and said, "That's his girlfriend." Then, Andrew turned his finger to the thin man and continued, "That's his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend." "I understand. My girlfriend ran away with her ex-boyfriend. It's so pitiful." Gwen suddenly realized, and Andrew smiled, "It's quite pitiful. I think he should have called the police." Gwen complained, "What's the use of calling the police? The police don't care about this kind of thing." Andrew said seriously, "The police don't care, the army will. Let me tell you, a fully armed army will be here soon to arrest the ex-boyfriend and destroy other people's families. It is a heinous crime. Yes, maybe the army will bring tanks over." Gwen didn't believe it, and Andrew smiled without saying a word. He had already recognized the man and woman. The woman was Betty, the daughter of General Ross, and the man was Dr. Bruce Banner. It is worth mentioning that the image of Dr. Banner is the version of Avengers, but now he is thinner and obviously not doing well. I remember there seemed to be a biological genius in the Incredible Hulk. Well, when I traveled to Marvel, they didn't recruit superheroes, but recruited scientific and technological talents every day. Is my style of painting a bit biased? Andrew secretly complained. If he remembered correctly, that genius should be called Mr. Lawn. At this time, a surprised voice suddenly came from not far away. "Mr. Wong, are you actually here?" Andrew and Gwen turned their heads and saw Natasha walking quickly towards this side, with excited faces on their faces. When Gwen saw Natasha, she immediately became wary. It was not that she lacked confidence, but that Natasha was too charming. "What is a stunner?" "Natasha like this is called a stunner," Andrew said. "She is S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Natasha. Because of my strong martial arts skills, S.H.I.E.L.D. sent her to seduce me. However, I did not fall for the trick and scolded her away." "Someone from S.H.I.E.L.D. Gwen suddenly understood and looked at Natasha with a hint of disgust. Natasha was speechless. "Are you really an angel? He lies more fluently than me. Do you believe that I told you that you have 2 boats? Natasha was thinking fiercely. At this moment, Andrew glanced at her with a half-smile. She immediately chose to follow her heart and confirmed with her eyes that this was a boss she couldn't afford to offend. "Mr. Wong, you misunderstood. We at S.H.I.E.L.D. just want to make friends with you." Natasha said, "By the way, Mr. Wong, why are you here?" "I'm coming with my girlfriend." Andrew said, "If nothing happens, you can leave and don't disturb us." "Okay, excuse me." Natasha smiled and walked towards Dr. Banner. This smile was not a disguise. She was very happy now. With Andrew Wong here, she was stable today. No matter how powerful the Hulk is, can he still defeat the Ghost Rider? At this moment, military vehicles rushed into the university, and immediately after, a large number of soldiers jumped out of the vehicles, shouting. Gwen was stunned. Are there really soldiers coming to arrest people? Is poaching someone else so serious a crime? Of course it's big. Tanks might actually appear soon. Andrew smiled and took Gwen to a safe place to watch the show, the Hulk vs. the Army show. "Damn, why are the military here?" Natasha cursed and hurriedly ran towards Andrew. Those were thighs and they had to be hugged. "Betty, run." Seeing the arrival of the army, Dr. Banner hurriedly pushed Betty away and ran towards the library. Just as Betty was about to catch up, a military vehicle drove up to her, and her father, General Ross, stepped out of the car. Chapter 58 Strengthening Soldiers, Old Green Goblin. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. Betty was very shocked when she saw General Ross. She hurriedly asked, "Dad, what are you doing?" "Of course to protect you, to protect this country. Catch her and don't let her run around." General Ross motioned to the soldiers to seize Betty, and he picked up the radio to direct the soldiers to capture Dr. Banner. At the same time, more and more soldiers are entering universities, and even infantry fighting vehicles and armed helicopters are appearing. Gwen became more and more shocked. Is there really a tank? Natasha couldn't help but curse. Is there anything wrong with General Ross's head? He actually sent the army into the university. If there is a conflict, many people will die. The military did not evacuate the students. Gwen looked a little ugly. Andrew took out his camera to take pictures and said, "To achieve the goal, any means will be used. Such a person must be exposed." Natasha glanced at Andrew speechlessly. "Are you pretending to be a reporter and pretending to be addicted?" That at this time, Bruce Banner was chased by several soldiers to the glass bridge. General Ross saw this and shouted, "Give him a taste of 2 tear gas canisters." The 2 soldiers immediately fired tear gas canisters at the glass bridge. With 2 pops, the tear gas canisters shattered the glass and fell on the bridge. Then, a large amount of white mist emerged from the tear gas canisters. Banner hurriedly took off his clothes and covered his mouth and nose. "Bruce!" Betty broke away from the soldiers and ran toward the glass bridge. 2 soldiers caught up with her and forced her back. Seeing his woman being treated roughly, Dr. Banner could no longer control the primordial power in his body. He let out a low roar, his eyes turned green, and his body swelled rapidly. Even his clothes were torn. A moment later, a beast-like roar rang out from the white fog, and then, a big green man over 2 meters tall, full of anger, full of muscles, and wearing shorts shattered the glass and jumped from the bridge to the ground. "Hulk is officially here. The quality of these pants is really good." Andrew sighed. Natasha and Gwen were speechless at the same time. "Is this what you care about?" "Shot." General Ross immediately shouted, and a large number of bullets were fired at Hulk densely, but they could not penetrate his skin at all, and they all bounced to the ground. Hulk became more and more angry and rushed towards the soldiers with bullets in his head. Upon seeing this, General Ross immediately sent a tank to shoot to stop Hulk. Hulk approached the tank and exerted force on his shoulder, causing the tank to roll over and land on its side. Upon seeing this, the other tanks frantically fired large-caliber bullets at Hulk, but they were unable to hurt Hulk at all. Instead, he overturned the tanks one after another. This is much scarier than what you see on the video. Natasha couldn't help but swallow her saliva. Gwen hesitated and said with a look of fear, "Andrew, this is too cruel. I want to go back to the classroom." "Quite good at pretending." Andrew knew Gwen's purpose, nodded and said, "Okay, you go back to the classroom and rest. Don't worry, nothing serious will happen." Gwen nodded and returned to the classroom. A moment later, Spider-Gwen appeared and rescued the nearby students who were running away in panic. Natasha looked at Spider-Gwen and said, "Your girlfriend seems to have a little secret." Andrew sneered, "You think I don't know?" "Of course you know, you can even see through sin." Natasha hesitated and said, "Mr. Wong, thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, I would not have been able to completely settle the past, let alone rescue my sister." Andrew didn't say anything. "If you thank me now, when you find out that I am the devil in the future, you will definitely kneel down on the spot." Seeing that field vehicles and ordinary soldiers were ineffective against Hulk, General Ross called out his trump card, which were 6 human-enhanced soldiers. These 6 human-enhanced soldiers were led by Bronsky. They held grenade guns and fired while approaching the Hulk. Even the Hulk was pushed back by the grenades, and the surroundings were filled with flames and black smoke. "Big man, do you remember us? We are here to find you." Bronsky shouted with a ferocious look on his face. Hulk roared angrily, ran to the side, grabbed an infantry fighting vehicle and threw it at Blonsky and others. Blonsky and others hurriedly evaded, and Hulk took the opportunity to rush forward and punched Blonsky so hard that the air dented visibly. It is worth mentioning that although Hulk was in a sorry state, he had no injuries on his body. It was just a grenade, which could not hurt him. Blonsky avoided Hulk's fist at a speed beyond ordinary people. Then, he threw away the grenade gun and picked up the submachine gun hanging on his body to shoot at Hulk. Hulk roared angrily and tore off the 2 doors of the chariot. Then, he slammed the door hard at Blonsky, who nimbly jumped onto a big tree to avoid it. Hulk swings the car door and cuts off the tree. Blonsky rolls in the air and shoots at the back of Hulk's head. Hulk turns around and hits Blonsky, and Blonsky rolls away. Hulk was about to pursue, and others joined in the attack. Bullets and grenades hit Hulk one after another. Hulk had to use the car door as a shield to resist the attack. Blonsky took the opportunity to get up and continue the attack with excitement. In this way, the 6 enhanced soldiers cooperated and supported each other, and even Hulk could not defeat them in a short time. They really can. General Ross was elated. The human enhancement potion was successful, and even the Hulk was restrained. Andrew shook his head. It was just a containment. Hulk's strength was not just that. The military actually created an enhanced person. Natasha was very surprised and hurriedly reported the news to headquarters. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. did not have the technology to enhance the human body. Blonsky, the cannon is deployed. General Ross shouted to Blonsky, and Blonsky made a gesture and led everyone to turn around and run away. Hulk immediately chased after him with a bang. The cannon is a sonic weapon produced by the Stark Group. Unfortunately, it could not stop the Hulk and was quickly destroyed by the Hulk. Upon seeing this, Blonsky came back with the enhanced man. The 2 sides continued to fight fiercely. The soldiers were side support. Hateful. The cannon failed, and General Ross couldn't help but curse. He was about to call for an armed helicopter to attack. At this moment, a strange man in green armor flew towards this side on a delta-wing aircraft that was constantly emitting black gas. The weirdo shouted to General Ross, "General Ross, I'm here to help you." General Ross was stunned for a moment, and then asked in astonishment, "Norman?" "It's me." The old Green Goblin. Norman laughed strangely, and controlled the Green Goblin skateboard to launch micromissiles at Hulk. With a bang, Hulk was pushed back, and Blonsky and others took the opportunity to attack. "Old Green Goblin. Are you making a fool of yourself?" Andrew couldn't help complaining. Although Norman's Green Goblin armor has been modified and not as ferocious as in the movie, there is no doubt that he is still the same old Green Goblin. Why did another weirdo appear? Natasha was speechless. Are drag shows popular in New York now? No, just a follower. Andrew pointed to the guy holding the camera below and said, "Someone wants to learn Iron Man." Chapter 59 The Mighty Hulk. You are listening at MaleProtagonist.audio. Follow the trend. Natasha was stunned. She glanced at the camera guy and said thoughtfully, "You mean, he wants to be another Iron Man?" Yes, the reason why Stark Group was able to successfully transform was because Iron Man stabilized the stock price. Andrew nodded and said, "This green tycoon wants to copy Iron Man's path and raise the stock price. Unfortunately, he cannot be as popular as Iron Man." Natasha nodded. Following the trend is definitely not as popular as the first one. That's not the reason. Andrew shook his head and said, "The real reason is that he is too old and too ugly." Natasha was stunned. Is this reason too realistic? Andrew said, "Superheroes are actually super idols. If the one in the sky is smart enough, he should push his son out instead of doing it himself." Norman naturally didn't know what Andrew said about him. He was very excited now. On the one hand, the human enhancement drug cured his genetic disease and made him very strong. On the other hand, he thought of a way to save the group's stock price. Genius approach. When I finish taking care of this big monster, I will become a superhero more famous than Iron Man. Coupled with the success of the human enhancement potion, the group's stock price will definitely soar. Hey, those bastards on the board of directors are waiting to see what my face looks like. Thinking of those bastards on the board of directors who were more hateful than vampires, Norman gritted his teeth, laughed strangely, and threw a row of pumpkin bombs at Hulk. Pumpkin bombs exploded one after another, making Hulk dizzy. He roared angrily and slammed the car door against Norman in the sky. Norman controlled the aircraft to easily avoid it and let out a proud smile. With this laugh and this green taste, who would be a fan of him? Andrew complained, and Natasha believed that this green guy didn't look like a decent guy. General Ross ignored Norman's calculations and asked loudly, "Norman, is there any way to hurt Banner?" "Don't worry, there is." Norman took out a green energy gun and aimed it at Hulk. The next second, a green light hit Hulk's shoulder. Hulk's strong muscles quickly dissolved, and even the bones underneath could be seen. This is the dissolving ray gun of the Osborne group. It has no other disadvantages except that it is super expensive. General Ross and others were overjoyed to see this. After fighting for so long, Hulk was finally injured. The injury made Hulk become furious. He roared and jumped more than 10 meters high with his feet, causing a large pit to sink into the ground. Then, Hulk slapped Norman on the aircraft hard. Norman laughed strangely and controlled the aircraft to go behind Hulk. Then, he continued to shoot, and a gap was dissolved in Hulk's back again. Fortunately, Hulk has super self-healing ability, and his wounds heal quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Upon seeing this, Norman accelerated his attack and shouted to Bronski and the others, "Help me wrap him up." Bronski was annoyed when he heard this. "Why should I cooperate with you? I, Bronski, am the strongest one." He shouted, took out the small pistol from his waist and walked quickly towards the fallen Hulk. "Blonsky, stop!" General Ross shouted hurriedly when he saw this. Unfortunately, Blonsky not only did not stop, but also challenged Hulk. "Come on, monster, let's see who is more powerful among us." Hulk was full of anger. When he saw Blonsky coming, he kicked him out and hit the wall until he was unconscious. Judging from the degree of folding of his body, his spine was completely broken. Seeing that Captain Bronski was severely injured, the remaining 5 enhanced soldiers were furious and attacked Hulk desperately. After a moment, 5 twisted and deformed bodies appeared on the ground. The most important thing for a team is to be neat and tidy. Borman was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He was a bunch of pig teammates, and General Ross also kept scolding him. He shouted loudly, "Ordinary soldiers retreat, get on the helicopter." Natasha asked in confusion, "They are all veterans who have experienced hundreds of battles. Why did they suddenly lose their minds?" "Most human enhancement projects are restoring Dr. Erskine's super soldier serum." Andrew said, "The super soldier serum has a special characteristic, you should know it, right?" Natasha, who often watches Captain America movies, laughed and said, "Of course I know that good people get better and evil people get worse. Red Skull becomes the great villain, and Captain America becomes the great saint." "Yes, although I don't know what kind of strengthening medicine they were injected with, it is obvious that this medicine failed and their negative emotions were amplified." Andrew said, "American soldiers are generally very cruel. If this kind of drug becomes popular in the army, it will be a catastrophe. I knew these guys weren't reliable." Natasha cursed. She hesitated and did not speak to Andrew. She knew very well that she could not control whether the other party would take action. The large caliber machine gun on the armed helicopter fired at Hulk fiercely, and Hulk had to raise his arm to resist. Norman took the opportunity to fire the dissolving ray again, and a large wound appeared on Hulk's arm. This made Hulk even more angry. He ran behind a small pile of rocks with bullets in his head. Then, he picked up rocks and kept throwing them at Norman. The rocks thrown by Hulk were fast and urgent, and some even exceeded the speed of sound and produced sonic booms. Norman hurriedly controlled the aircraft to avoid them. It was Norman's first time using an aircraft, so he was inevitably unfamiliar. Soon, the aircraft was hit by a stone, and black smoke erupted from the bottom with a bang. Norman hurriedly controlled it to stabilize it. The aircraft finally stabilized, and General Ross's horrified cry came from below, "Be careful." Before Norman could react, a huge green figure appeared in front of him, and then Hulk slapped Norman hard. Norman flew out like a kite with a broken string, and crashed into the helicopter with a bang. The helicopter spun violently in the air due to the impact. A moment later, the helicopter hit the ground and exploded with a bang, setting off a large amount of flames and black smoke. It is worth mentioning that Norman did not die. He jumped out before the impact. The armor on his body, like the steel suit, has a strong anti-shock and shock-absorbing effect. Poor Norman, the show was screwed up. While taking pictures, Andrew complained, "Of course, this is normal. Iron Man only fights Obadiah in the first fight. You directly challenged the Hulk in the first fight. Who will lose if you don't lose?" Hulk landed on the ground with a bang and roared at the surroundings. He was so happy and domineering that he couldn't describe it. General Ross's heart sank. How could he fight like this? Andrew touched his chin. Do you want Hulk to be reborn in hell as a vanguard general? Quite mighty, Andrew's eyes flashed slightly. If you want to tame the beast, you must beat him first. At this time, Natasha received a call from Professor Charles. Natasha, I have located the Hulk, but he is very angry now, and I am not sure how to restore him to calm. Professor Charles is not at Calvo Academy, he is at the mutant school using a brainwave enhancer to target the Hulk. Natasha said, Professor, give it a try. We are in the university now. If this big guy goes crazy, many people will die. Chapter 60 Smash. You are listening at MTnovel.audio. Good. Professor Charles nodded and used the brainwave intensifier to enter Dr. Banner's mind. Soon, he found Dr. Banner deep in his consciousness and said, Dr. Banner, I am Professor Charles. Let's work together to remove your angry personality. Press it down. Professor Charles. Dr. Banner was stunned for a moment, then said, That's not my angry personality, that's a beast. I, Bruce Banner, am a scientist with 7 doctorates. He is your angry personality, he shares your emotional system, Dr. Banner, you should accept him. Professor Charles said, Let's not talk about this for now. Let's take your body back together. Okay, but he's really not me. Dr. Banner said stubbornly, and then, with the help of the professor's spiritual power, he gradually suppressed Hulk's consciousness back. I won't go back. Hulk hasn't had enough fun yet, and more importantly, the enemy hasn't been completely eliminated yet. He doesn't want to go back and desperately fights Dr. Banner. The battle of consciousness made Hulk stupidly stop in place. General Ross saw this and thought that the opportunity had come. He hurriedly gave in and aimed the chariot at Hulk. At the same time, the old green goblin also got up from the ground and pointed the energy gun at Hulk with a ferocious expression. Graham back. No. Betty shouted loudly when she saw this, but it was useless. Under the order of General Ross, a cannonball and a green light hit Hulk at the same time. Hulk was blown away on the spot. What was worse was that a piece of his back was dissolved. Big Hole, seeing that Hulk was injured, Betty struggled desperately. The soldier saw this and roughly pushed her to the ground. He was injured and his girlfriend was pushed down again. Hulk was completely angry. Dr. Banner's consciousness was forced back to the depths by him. At the same time, his wounds recovered at an alarming speed. Then, Hulk got up and kicked the body next to him hard towards Norman. Norman was instantly knocked away and rolled on the ground. After dealing with Norman, Hulk roared and jumped in front of the soldiers. Then, with a flick of his hand, several soldiers who were holding Betty were swept away. General Ross was frightened and fled into the command vehicle. The command vehicle was about to escape, but was picked up by the angry Hulk and held above his head. Seeing that the command vehicle was about to be thrown out, Betty hurriedly shouted, Bruce, no. Hulk threw the command vehicle to the ground with some annoyance. Then, he turned around and rushed towards the soldiers. The soldiers were no match for him at all and were swept away by him one after another. Hulk is very powerful, and the soldiers swept away by him were either killed or seriously injured. The situation was completely out of control. Dr. Charles's voice sounded in Natasha's mind, I'm sorry, I failed. Hulk was completely angered. Natasha gritted her teeth, I don't blame you, it's the military that was stupid. The Hulk was raging, and one person couldn't sit still, and that was the kind-hearted Spider-Gwen. She couldn't help but use spider silk to rescue the two soldiers. When the Hulk saw this, he immediately rushed towards her with a bang. Gwen immediately fired the spider web at Hulk, and Hulk was caught in the web. Then, the current on it started, and Hulk roared and tore the spider web apart with force. Then, Hulk rushed in front of Gwen and punched her hard. Gwen used spider silk to fly to the tree. Hulk punched the big tree, which was broken on the spot and fell down. Gwen hurriedly jumped to another big tree. Hulk broke down all the trees in the forest like a demolition worker, and Gwen gradually lost her hiding space. In fact, if Gwen wanted to escape, it would not be difficult. The problem was that Gwen didn't want to involve other people, and she couldn't give up those soldiers. At this time, Hulk grabbed a big tree and used it as a stick to sweep at Gwen. Although Gwen tried her best to avoid it, she was still scraped by the branches and fell from the air. Her heart sank. This was terrible. At this moment, Gwen fell into a warm and strong embrace. She looked up and found that Andrew was hugging her, and she suddenly felt happy. Andrew landed on the ground and gently put Gwen down. Then, he touched Gwen's head and said, "Leave first and leave this place to me." "Well, be careful." Gwen nodded and stepped aside obediently. Her heart was full of sweetness. Her boyfriend was reliable and gentle. "Hey, wait a minute." She was not Gwen now, but Spider-Woman. Gwen was suddenly a little dissatisfied. "Why are you so gentle to other women? And you still touch your head?" Seeing another person coming out, Hulk became even more angry. He was about to attack when he suddenly saw a huge figure emerging from behind Andrew. Only Hulk could see it. This figure looked down at Hulk like a god, and the entire void almost froze. Even Hulk couldn't help but feel terrified in his heart. Hulk, invincible. Fear did not make Hulk retreat, but made him even more angry. He roared, jumped up hard, and hit Andrew hard from high altitude. Andrew shook his head, and when Hulk jumped to the highest point, he suddenly appeared in front of Hulk, and then, he kicked Hulk hard on the chin with a high kick in the air, accompanied by the crisp sound of bone cracking. Hulk turned 720 degrees in the air and fell to the ground with a bang, forming a herringbone pit. Before Hulk could recover from the violent impact, Andrew grabbed his calf and slammed him to the left. Boom, dust flew up and the whole earth shook. This was not over yet. Andrew then smashed Hulk to the right, and then to the left. Boom boom, the ground kept sinking downwards, and the surrounding buildings almost collapsed. Everyone was stunned. That was Hulk. He was being beaten around like a toy. Who is this? Gwen secretly complained. Which dimension of Kung Fu Master is Andrew actually so powerful? Natasha looked admiring. Ghost Rider is really too strong. Professor Charles was quite lucky. I'm so lucky that Eric wasn't beaten to death by him. General Ross and a group of soldiers. Who is the monster? Norman looked confused. How can Andrew Wong be so strong? Fortunately, I didn't choose to be his enemy. After the shock, Norman felt deep jealousy in his heart. Andrew Wong was younger, stronger, richer, and more handsome than himself, so why should all the good things belong to him? Boom, Andrew let go and threw Hulk into the big pit he made. Hulk looked at the sky, his mind went blank. Who am I, where am I, what am I going to do? No tears in the corners of my eyes, bad review. Andrew looked disappointed. Should he be beaten again? At this time, Betty reacted. She broke away from the soldier's shackles and ran to Hulk, shouting with tears, "Bruce!" Hulk came to his senses, got up, glanced at Andrew in horror, hugged Betty and ran away. Upon seeing this, General Ross quickly sent people to chase him, but the soldiers looked at each other and all chose to stay put. "Please, we can't defeat that monster at all, okay?